Prime Minister is set to appear in front of the infected blood inquiry later today, with families of those affected urging him to announce the implementation of a compensation scheme.
Well, Richard Warwick is the victim of an infected blood scandal. Richard, really good to see you this morning. Now, of course, the Prime Minister giving evidence today. That will be a significant moment for you. You're a victim of the infected blood scandal. Tell us a bit more about your story.
OK, well, I'm a haemophiliac, and at the age of 11, with the treatment I was given to treat that haemophilia, I contracted HIV, hepatitis B and hepatitis C through intravenous blood products imported from America. So I've had, if you like, the full Monty of viruses.
Richard, awful. But let's go back in time. What are we talking about? Was this the 80s, mid-80s, late 80s we're talking about here?
Yes. Early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, yes.
OK. The question I'm asking you, and you would have been in that hospital ward and there would have been people around you getting similar treatment and all with different consequences. And I mean, some of them not very, very good consequences as a result of that. But all I'm going to ask you, Richard, is how was anyone to know? Did the technology exist then where this blood could have been screened? Was there a responsibility that wasn't upheld? What would you like to say about who was to blame, or if you think anyone's to blame?
Well, the NHS in the UK were not self-sufficient in producing blood products themselves, so they imported products from the States and other countries to meet that demand. There was screening in place for non-A, non-B hepatitis and hepatitis B, but not HIV. So, yes, they did know that viruses were present in pooled concentrates. And, in fact, one of the CEOs of one of the pharmaceutical companies made it very clear that all of his employees knew that they were being exposed to hepatitis B. So it was very much known about.
And there were so many boys in your school year who were also infected, weren't they? Yes,
there were about 120 boys at the school. And we just actually lost one a couple of weeks ago. We're now up to 73 deaths. So we've lost a lot of good school friends.
So that is shocking. That's
awful. Pretty tragic, really.
It's pretty tragic. But sorry, what I don't understand is how come all of these boys were from the same school? I can understand you going to the same treatment centre, the same ward or something, but why necessarily the same school affected by all of this?
Well, it was a specialist school for physically disabled boys and girls.
Okay.
And there was a separate haemophilia unit actually set up there, and it was the ideal, in our opinion, and what the inquiry has found out, it was the ideal research ground. It was a closed, captive community of haemophiliac boys, and they could run tests and trials on the boys at the school. So they tried all sorts of different products, both commercial and local.
Okay.
Locally manufactured products on the boys to see what the effects were.
Do you know, when you look back at that, I mean, that's nearly 50% of people who were being treated around the same time as you gone. You obviously must feel very lucky to be here, and how come you are still here?
Look, no, luck's got nothing to do with it. I and the survivors that are still around have a great deal and share a great deal of survivors' guilt, because we have lost so many friends that should still be around now. No, luck had nothing to do with it, Eamon. The fact that I'm here and the people that are still here is down to the fact that, I don't know, is it genetics? We don't know. But the fact that we lost so many people, especially those that died in the late teens, early 20s, it brought it home to us of how widespread these infections were, particularly amongst the haemophilia community. It wiped out a whole generation of young lads, young teenagers with haemophilia during the late 80s and early 90s. It's really decimated our community.
Richard, you must be so angry. I mean, you talk there about your friends, children, teenagers who have died because of infected blood. I mean, we're talking today about the compensation offer, potential compensation offer, would that even go far enough for how you're feeling?
Well, as someone that was infected, I received £100,000 interim payment in August of last year. But when you consider that I've been infected with multiple viruses for over 40 years, I think we worked it out amongst ourselves last night. It works out at something like £51 a week for being infected with multiple viruses during the time that we've